Swayam Rupa
Recording it.
Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavansha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitansha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we're starting with text 9 of the Nectar of Instruction, Upadeshamrita. We covered text 7 and 8 last time. Now we'll start with text 9. I'll just read the verse. I'll actually read the verses for 9, 10, and 11, and then we will switch to the PowerPoints. These verses are very, very amazing. Now remember that Nectar of Instruction only has 11 verses. So because it only has 11 verses, the content of these verses is very, very significant. Whatever is in there has to be very important, right? This is the executive summary. This is the Magna Carta. This is it's you know, if you had 3 minutes to live, this is what you should know, right? This is what Rupa Goswami is giving us. The content is very important, and also the time that is spent on that content is also very significant. So in other words, if you have 3 minutes, and in those 3 minutes you spend 1 minute on one topic, and you spend 2 minutes on 10 topics, and let's say this person who's speaking is you know, a great sage, then naturally you will know that that topic which the sage spent 1 minute speaking about is a very important topic, because there are only 3 minutes, and of those 3 minutes they spent 1 minute. So until now we've covered pretty much all of spiritual life, right? From Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam, from the starting, which is controlling the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the belly and the genitals, just basic human life, all the way up to the last verse, which is the essence of all advice, is to continuously chant the holy names of Krishna. In these 11 verses, Rupa Goswami has described the levels of all the devotees. He's described how to practice the process of Krishna consciousness. What is the 6 things that help our Krishna consciousness? Enthusiasm, patience, and 6 things that destroy our Krishna consciousness: overeating, over-endeavoring, not following the rules and regulations. And he's described the 6 loving exchanges between devotees. So at this point, and At text 8, Rupa Goswami could literally end. He could end the book at text 8 because the essence of all advice is to chant the holy names of Krishna. One goes back home, back to Godhead by chanting the holy names of Krishna. So now, what is the need of other verses? Why doesn't Nectar of Instruction? And we all know this, that by chanting it's the ultimate advice. All the acharyas have said this. So what is the need of texts 9, 10, and 11? Well, in these three verses, Rupa Goswami describes the spiritual world. So this is actually prayojan. This is, we have sambandha, we have abhideya. Sambandha is the knowledge of the relationship. Abhideya is the practice of Krishna consciousness that leads us to the goal. And prayojana is the goal. He's describing to us the goal. And he's spending 3 verses, as you will see, on one topic, on one place. So how important this must be. So I'm not going to give it away. You can see for yourself when we read it. But in these verses, he's describing the spiritual world. And within the spiritual world, the levels of places, the levels of devotees, and he's particularly emphasizing something. He only has 11 verses, and of those 3, in those 3 verses, he's emphasizing something again and again. So without any further delay, let us read. Vaikuntha janito vara madhupuri tatrapi rasotsavad vrindaranyam udarapani ramanat tatrapi govardhanam radha kundam ihapi gokulapate premamrita plavanat kuryad asya virajato giri tate sevam viveki nakaha. Translation. The holy place known as Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. So Mathura is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. Superior to Mathura is the transcendental forest of Vrindavan, because of Krishna's Rasa Leela pastimes. And superior to the forest of Vrindavan is Govardhan Hill, for it was raised by the divine hand of Sri Krishna and was the site of his various loving pastimes. And above all, the super excellent Sri Radha Kunda stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarian prema of the Lord of Gokula, Sri Krishna. Where then is that intelligent person who is unwilling to serve this divine Radha Kunda, which is situated at the foot of Govardhan Hill? Karmibhya parito hare piyataya vyaktim yayurgyaninas tebhyo jnana vimukta bhakti parama premaika nishtastataha tebhyasta pashupala pankaja drishastabhyopi saradhika preshtat tadvad iyam tadiya sarasitam nashayet kakriti. In the Shastra, it is said that all types of fruitive workers, he who is advanced in knowledge of the higher values of life, is favored by the Supreme Lord Hari. Out of many such people who are advanced in knowledge, jnanis, one who is practically liberated by virtue of his knowledge may take to devotional service. He is superior to others. However, one who has actually attained prema, pure love of Krishna, is superior to him. The gopis are exalted above all the advanced devotees because they are always totally dependent upon Sri Krishna. The transcendental cowherd boy. Among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna. Her kunda or lake is as profoundly dear to Lord Krishna as this most beloved of the gopis. Who then will not reside at Radha Kunda and in a spiritual body surcharged with ecstatic devotional feelings, aprakrit bhava, render loving service to the divine couple, Shri Shri Radha Govinda, who perform their Ashtakalya Leela, their eternal eightfold daily pastimes. Indeed, those who execute devotional service on the banks of Radha Kund are the most fortunate people in the universe. Krishnas yochai pranaya vasati preyasi bhyopi radha kundam chasya munibhir abitas tadrik eva vyadhyadi vyadhayi ya preshtairapyalam asulabham kim punar bhakti bhajam tat premedam sakritapi sarala snatur avishkaroti. Of the many objects of favored delight, and of all the lovable damsels of Rajabhumi, Srimati Radharani is certainly the most treasured object of Krishna's love. And in every respect, her divine Kunda is described by great sages as similarly dear to him. Undoubtedly, Radha Kund is very rarely attained, even by the great devotees. Therefore, it is even more difficult for ordinary devotees to attain. If one simply bathes once within those holy waters, one's pure love of Krishna is fully aroused. So nice. Okay. Now. So this is in the spiritual world, everything is absolute, right? Everything is spiritual. Everything is Shuddha Sattva. So everything is equal. If everything is perfectly pure, it's Shuddha Sattva. Everything is perfectly pure. However, even within the spiritual world, there are places among the best. There are places that are even better. That are even better. That are even better. So Nectar of Instruction is describing this you could say this progress or this levels of places in the spiritual world. However, we always have to remember, just like the rasas, we say that Madhurya Rasa is the highest rasa. The highest rasa is Madhurya Rasa. But we have to remember that actually all the rasas and all the relationships that the devotees have with the Lord are equally satisfying. And they're all just as dear and pleasing to the Lord. Yet, if we look at it from another point of view, some are still more intimate than others. So, for example, we cannot think that Mother Yashoda is less dear to Krishna, or her relationship with Krishna is any less than that of the gopis of Vrindavan. The gopis of Vrindavan, they worship Mother Yashoda. She is the greatest of devotees of the Lord. In the same way, we cannot think that Arjuna is less advanced or less important than the other devotees of the Lord. At the same time, the gopis of Vrindavan are more intimate associates than Arjuna is. So this is the logic of the spiritual world. It's the logic of infinity. Every relationship with Krishna is infinite. But within infinity, we're still trying to measure which is more important, which is less important. So it really doesn't make sense, but it also makes sense. This is the logic of the spiritual world. We have to, before we start this discussion, we have to realize that we are living in the world. We are dealing with a world that is inconceivable. So our material estimations of less and more, of good and bad, do not apply here. It is the logic of the spiritual world, which is beyond logic. Srila Prabhupada says that actually in the spiritual world, there's only one rasa. And that rasa is dasya ras. That is of service. Every person in the spiritual world is thinking, how can I serve the Lord? Everyone wants to be the servant of the Lord. Then the gopis think, oh, I can serve the Lord best by becoming a gopi and having a conjugal relationship with Krishna. Mother Yashoda thinks, I can serve Krishna the best by being Krishna's mother. Krishna's servants in Vaikuntha, in Vaikuntha Lok, think, I can serve Krishna the best by being his servant. So in that way, it's all absolute because it's all just a place of service. But Krishna, within this oneness is also variety. And that's the beauty of the spiritual world. So think of these as flavors of ice cream. Don't think of this as good and bad or less, higher and lower. These are flavors of ice cream. And some flavors are more intense than others. Some flavors are more colorful than others. But they're all just flavors of ice cream. So in this first verse that we're looking at today, in text 9, Rupa Goswami is describing how within the spiritual world, there are places that are more and more exalted than other places. So Vaikuntha refers to the whole spiritual creation. And particularly Vaikuntha also means, Vaikuntha means a place of no anxiety. So this world is characterized by anxiety. It's the most painful disease that we have is anxiety in this world. And the spiritual world is a place of no anxiety. So everywhere in the spiritual world, Radhakund, Govardhan, Vrindavan, it's a place of no anxiety. So in that way, it's all Vaikuntha. But in the spiritual world, there are specific planets of Vaikuntha Lok, where Krishna is residing there as Vishnu, as Narayana, and his devotees are serving him in that way. They are meditating on Krishna's form, Krishna's service. Krishna is so beautiful. We're just reading this verse. Where were we reading this verse? This was, this is from the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's in the story of Rishabdev. And before Rishabdev takes the human form, he first appears to his parents who are Nabhi. I forget the mother's name, but father's King Nabhi. And he appears in a Vishnu form. And the Bhagavatam there specifically says, and Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, he says that the Lord's form is very, very beautiful. It's darkish in complexion. It's so beautiful that it's beauty itself. So the form of Lord Narayan is very, very beautiful. And the devotees of the Lord are in love with this form. They're serving the Lord in unalloyed devotion, in unalloyed service. These are all liberated souls, and this is a spiritual planet. But Rupa Goswami says more exalted than Vaikuntha is Mathura. Why? Because Lord Shri Krishna, the original Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam, Krishna appears in the land of Mathura. More exalted than Mathura is Vrindavan. Because why? Because Krishna performed the Rasa Leela pastimes there. And more exalted than Vrindavan, the place of Krishna's spontaneous pastime with all of his devotees and the 12 forests of Vrindavan, is Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill is more exalted than Vrindavan. Very interesting, right? Because sometimes you go to Vrindavan, but we don't go to Giriraj. We don't go to Govardhan Hill. But Govardhan Hill is very, very exalted. And the Krishna book explains why. Because Govardhan Hill is most super excellent. It is the best among all the devotees of the Lord. It's the best devotee in serving other devotees. It's the best at serving other devotees. Govardhan Hill provides grass to all of the cows in Vrindavan. So all these devotees of the Lord are getting their nourishment from Govardhan Hill. All the cow devotees, all the calf devotees, all the deer are finding residence in Govardhan. The birds, all the residents of Vrindavan feel at home because of Govardhan Hill. And furthermore, Govardhan Hill is providing a place for Krishna and his friends to play, for the gopis to go and pick flowers. And most importantly, Govardhan hill was touched by the hand of the Lord, and Krishna lifted it above his head for 7 days and 7 nights. So imagine the Lord is lifting Govardhan hill above his head, beyond him as an umbrella. And for 7 days and 7 nights, and particularly it's mentioned that Govardhan hill offered service to all the residents of Vrindavan, all the devotees and Krishna at that time by protecting them from all the rain and the windfall. So he also, even in that Leela, performed the greatest service. He provided protection to millions of devotees. So when we protect devotees, when we care for them, when we establish, schools, hospices, temples, ashrams, we are caring for the devotees. We're giving them residences, places to stay, places where their Krishna consciousness can be nourished in association with Krishna and his devotees. When we serve the movement and the society by managing projects where devotees can come and stay and live and prosper in their Krishna consciousness, that is great service. And Govardhan Hill does this for 7 days and 7 nights while being held by the hand of Krishna. So Govardhan Hill is even more exalted than Vrindavan, and more exalted than all of these places is Sri Radha Kunda. And as you saw, all 3 final verses, in the only 11 verses he has, all 3 final verses, Rupa Goswami is speaking about Radha Kund. So how important this place must be. Radha Kund, as we are seeing, as we are reading, is non-different than Srimati Radharani. It is the most glorious abode. It is Srimati Radharani in liquid form. And Radha Kund is the most exalted place in the 3 worlds. I had a small personal experience in this. When I was young, we were going on Brajamandal Parikrama, and we would get sick very often. I would get sick. So in the first time of Brajamandal Parikrama, I attended the first 2 weeks, and then I got really sick. So I was able to visit Mathura and Vrindavan. But I missed the Govardhan Parikrama and I missed Radha Kund. Then in the second time we did Parikrama, Vrindavan Parikrama, I made it to Govardhan. We did Mathura, Vrindavan, and Govardhan. But then the next day you go to Radha Kund. And I wasn't able to go to Radha Kund. And then the third time I did Parikrama, and I've only been fortunate to try doing it three times. The third time when we did it, I was older, and I think facilities maybe were also better. And then I was able to do the whole thing and visit all the places. So practically also, this was one of my realizations, that how there is a path that we can gradually progress on. And as we will see, physically visiting there is not actually even visiting these places. Just because just because we are able to physically visit the place doesn't mean that we're actually visiting Radha Kunda. So my consciousness was far, far away from visiting any of these places, Mathura, Vrindavan, Govardhan. But even physically, the point is that even physically, just even to go there took some time. And it's a matter of great fortune if we can even physically go there. To actually visit these places, even Narad Muni, the Nectar of Instruction, is saying, even Narad Muni is waiting for the opportunity to take a bath in Radha Kunda. And Narad Muni, as we know, he's the saint of bhakti. He is Krishna's dearest devotee, one of his dearest devotees, and he is waiting for an opportunity to bathe in Radha Kund. But even to visit these places right now physically is a matter of great fortune. The scriptures say that even if someone has a desire, even if one contemplates that I should visit Vrindavan, just thinks that, I should really go there. Just that desire is the result of millions of lifetimes of spiritual advancement. So how fortunate all of us are in this Krishna consciousness movement, that we get the chance to visit this place, or we even have the desire to visit this place. During COVID, we might have desired to go there. And that is the result of millions of lifetimes of spiritual advancement. So it's not an ordinary place. This is describing prayojan, the goal. So Vaikuntha Lok, the spiritual world, is 3/4 of the total creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it is the most exalted region. The spiritual world is naturally superior to the material world. So we have to remember that Vaikuntha Lok is 3/4 of this creation. It's not like a very small, very difficult to, well, it is difficult to reach, but very kind of exclusive planet. Most of the creation, most of all living entities, imagine, are in the spiritual world, relishing Krishna's pastimes, his qualities. How blind we are in this material world to this whole dimension of the universe. We are so engrossed in the quagmire of this material life, just in our little, temporary problems. And the whole spiritual world is there waiting for us. So Vaikuntha Lok is the most pure abode, 3/4 of the creation. We start from here. Then, as we mentioned, Mathura is the holy place known as Mathura, is spiritually superior to Vaikuntha, the transcendental world, because the Lord appeared there. Krishna appears in Mathura, and there's a beautiful temple there, which is now somewhat underground. But this is the Lord appears. If the Lord appears in some place, it is very extraordinary. So Krishna's appearance place. Then Vrindavan is superior to Mathura Puri. Is the transcendental force of Vrindavan because of Krishna's Rasa Leela pastimes. This is, in every religious tradition, we have what is known as the beatific vision. This is the highest vision. The ultimate goal, the highest exchange of love, is depicted in this Rasa Leela pastime. Srila Prabhupada writes, in a few different places, but particularly in one place, he writes that the goal of this Krishna consciousness movement is to join the dancing party of Krishna. So the goal of the Krishna consciousness movement is actually to join Krishna's dancing party, which means join the Rasa Leela of Krishna. So one day, this is the goal, to reach this place. So these are not theoretical lessons that we are reading. Rupa Goswami is describing this because this is the goal. We have to aspire to one day be able to join this Leela in some way or the other in a way of service. Srila Prabhupada once described that devotees who distribute books are distributing very much in the mood of the gopis, because they're trying to bring others to Krishna. And that is the mood of the gopis. The gopis are not trying to dance or enjoy with Krishna themselves. They do that. They dance with Krishna themselves as a service to Krishna, because they know that Krishna wants them to dance with them. But their primary meditation is how can they get others to dance with Krishna. This is why Srila Prabhupada is telling us that the goal of the Krishna conscious movement is to dance with Krishna, because his primary desire is to get us to dance with Krishna. He's not trying to simply dance with Krishna himself. Otherwise, he would have never come to this world and given us transcendental knowledge and saved all of us through his sacrifice. So joining Krishna's Rasa Leela pastimes means doing the activities of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada says that they are in the same mood as the gopis, because they're trying to bring others to Krishna. And therefore, preaching Krishna consciousness, therefore distributing books, is an attempt. It is acting in the mood of the gopis, and it is the effort of joining Krishna's Rasa Leela pastimes. One is joining by bringing others. One is joining by serving the Lord and glorifying his pastimes by making them known to everyone else. Like Mother Yashoda and Nanda Baba, who are Drona and Droni, they achieved a higher Nanda Maharaj and Vasudev. This is the month of Kartik, so it's very relevant to us. Vasudev and Devaki in their previous life were Prishni and Prishni Garbha, and they performed immense austerities to attain the Lord as their son. And Krishna fulfills that desire, and they have Krishna as their son. But then Drona and Droni, who were also great devotees of the Lord, they perform austerities. But then as a result of their austerities, they're able to personally witness Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan. And they're so fortunate. They are able to see Krishna's pastimes, which are so dear. Drona and Dhara, yes. That are so dear to the devotees. So Maharaj Parikshit is actually unable to understand that how is it possible that by performing austerities, Drona and Dhara could become so fortunate to become Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yashoda. And so he puts this question forward to Shukadev Goswami, that how is it possible that just by performing austerities, someone can become Krishna's parents? Even great yogis who perform such austerities are not even able to see the toenails of the Lord. So how are they able to attain the position of Krishna's parents? And to answer Parikshit Maharaj's question, to answer this question, Shukadev Goswami relates the pastime of Damodar Leela. He tells Parikshit Maharaj the story of Damodar Leela to tell him why Drona and Dhara, Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj were so fortunate to have Krishna as their child and to personally witness Krishna's childhood pastimes. And what does the pastime of Damodar Leela show us? It shows us Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj's unalloyed devotion, unalloyed love for Krishna. Shukadev Goswami clarifies that no, it was not only because of their austerities that they were able to have Krishna as their son, but it was their austerities in unalloyed devotion. Their spontaneous love for Krishna that allowed them to become Krishna's parents. And this was shown by the fact that Mother Yashoda was able to bind Krishna. And the Bhagavatam explicitly says that not by any ordinary ropes, but she was able to bind Krishna by the ropes of love. Because of her love, she was able to bind Krishna. And that is their qualification, their intense love for Krishna. And what was their love? When Drona and Dhara, when they see the Lord, when he appears before them, then they ask him not to be their son. Even though they desired this, they asked him, they said, please appear in this world as our son so that the rest of the world can witness your transcendental pastimes, so that everyone in the world can know about and hear about and chant about your transcendental pastimes. So their desire was more advanced than Vasudeva and Devaki's desire, because they were not just desiring that Krishna becomes their son, but their particular prayer to the Lord was, please perform your pastimes so everyone in this world can see and understand and hear about your transcendental pastimes. So that is the mood of a preacher. And this pastime is showing that mood of trying to give Krishna is more exalted than the mood of only wanting to get Krishna. And that is the mood of the Rasa Leela. The Rasa Leela and the gopis are always trying to bring others to Krishna. And we can enter into these pastimes by imbibing this transcendental mood. We can enter into Vrindavan Dham. We can realize Vrindavan Dham by trying to bring others to Vrindavan Dham, by telling them about Vrindavan so that their lives will become fortunate and one day they will visit Vrindavan Dham. The interior forests of Vrindavan are considered superior to Mathura meaning the forest where Krishna performed the Rasa Leela and his other pastimes, because of the presence of the 12 forests, Vadashavana, such as Talavan, Madhuvan, and Bahulavan, which are famous for the various pastimes of the Lord. So all Krishna's intimate, wonderful pastimes were done in these 12 forests. And Vrindavan refers to a place, and it also refers to one of the 12 forests. So when we speak about Vrindavan, we mean all 12 forests. But Vrindavan is also one of the 12 forests. So this is the Raja Mandala area that is more superior to Mathura. And more superior to Mathura is Govardhan Hill, which was raised by Krishna's hand and the site of frequent intimate pastimes. Superior to these forests is the divine Govardhan Hill, because Krishna lifted Govardhan Hill like an umbrella, raising it with his lotus-like beautiful hand to protect his associates, the denizens of Raja, from the torrential rains sent by the angry Indra, king of the demigods. So Govardhan Hill is so auspicious. Even the dust from Govardhan Hill can liberate us. And the Govardhan Shila, the stones at Govardhan, they are non-different than Krishna. Every stone of Govardhan Hill is non-different than Krishna. It's very interesting. If you go to Govardhan, you'll find Govardhan has 3 colors in different places, 3 distinct colors. And we discovered this because when we went there, we had the opportunity, the good fortune of meeting Gopi Paranadhana Prabhu's wife, who resides there permanently. She's very, very exalted. She performs Govardhan Parikrama half of Govardhan Parikrama every day, and half the other day. She also chants 64 rounds every day. And she actually helped my mother in getting her Govardhan Shila, which is something that we should not do unless we're advised by the spiritual master. We should never take the Govardhan Shila from Govardhan Hill, because if we do and we're not ready for it, then we will get great reaction. It's actually very dangerous. It's very very exalted and uplifting if we are ready, but if we're not, then it can actually be very dangerous. So there's 3 colors of Govardhan Shilas. One is the golden color. Another, you'll see golden, Giriraj's color in some areas is very, very golden. In other areas, it's very blackish, very dark. And in a third area, which is a very small area, it's whitish. So Govardhan Hill has stones that are non-different than Krishna. These are considered the Shama Giriraj, the dark Govardhan Shilas. Then you have Govardhan Shilas that are very golden in color, and they're distinctly different. You can see the difference, very lightish and golden in color. That is Srimati Radharani. So Radharani takes the form of those Shilas. And then you have white ones, and that is Lord Balaram. So you have Radha, Krishna, and Balaram, all 3 in Govardhan Hill. And Govardhan Hill is also very, very auspicious. Why it is so exalted? Because Govardhan Hill is the only place where Krishna himself, he himself says that we should worship. So this cannot be speculation, because in the Bhagavatam, Krishna himself is telling all the residents of Vrindavan that you should all worship Govardhan Hill. So Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is telling us to worship this hill. So there's just no question that whether or not it should be worshipped. Krishna himself doesn't say this about any other place. Krishna hardly ever tells that we should worship any specific place or person or like this. But Govardhan Hill, Krishna mentions very specifically. So these So going to Govardhan Hill and performing parikrama is the most auspicious thing. And this Dhamma, this Dhamma is our spiritual master. Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur says that the Dham is not just a place of pilgrimage. The Dham is actually one of our spiritual masters. When we go to the Dham, then the Dham gives us guidance. Through the residents there, through the devotees, also from within the heart, the Dhamma, and through the experiences, the Dhamma gives us guidance. And that guidance is so special. And the Dhamma reveals the Nama. Aindra Prabhu says this, that the Dhamma reveals the Nama. The Dhamma also, by going to the place of pilgrimage, by going to Vrindavan Dham, the name of Krishna also becomes revealed very easily. Krishna's name becomes manifest from within in our heart. It is also at Govardhan Hill that Krishna tends the cows with his cowherd friends. And there also he had his I always forget how to pronounce this word, Rendezvous with his most beloved Sri Radha, and engaged in loving pastimes with her.
It's rendezvous, just so you know.
Say it again.
Rendezvous. It's like French.
Rendezvous. I'll remember that. Thank you. And he has his rendezvous with his most beloved Sri Radha and engages in loving pastimes with her. So Govardhan Hill is most intimate pastimes take place there. And beyond Govardhan Hill is Sri Radha Kunda, as dear to Krishna as Radha. So Radha Kunda, this divine lake, is as dear to Krishna as Srimati Radharani. Above all, the super excellent Sri Radha Kunda stands supreme, for it is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarian prema of the Lord of Gokula, Sri Krishna. So look at Srila Prabhupada's words, how he describes this, that the most super excellent place is Sri Radha Kunda is overflooded with the ambrosial nectarian prema of the Lord of Gokula, Sri Krishna. This is ambrosia, this is nectar, and that prema is actually liquid in form, and it is Radha Kunda. That prema has filled this kunda, and this kunda is non-different than Srimati Radharani. So now in the purport, you'll find that Srila Prabhupada says that all of us, everyone should bathe in Radha Kunda, should get the opportunity to bathe in Radha Kunda, and in fact, stay there, live there, and bathe in Radha Kunda regularly. So one may feel that, well, should I do this? I mean, is this, Prabhupada is saying this here. At the same time, in Prabhupada's own example during his time, when he saw that some devotees were fooling around in Radha Kunda, treating it like a swimming pool, he forbade them to bathe. Also, many of the local Brajvasis, they will bathe only once a year in Radha Kunda, which is the day that the Radha Kunda appears. So there, both principles are there. And actually, a lot of devotees, they make it very complicated, like, this thing or this rasa, or what is this, and how qualified are we are. It's actually very simple, that we should bathe. We should definitely bathe in Radha Kunda. But at the same time, if we deeply understand that this Radha Kunda is as dear to Krishna as Srimati Radharani herself, and this Kunda is Srimati Radharani, then if we are humble devotees, if we are actually feeling humble within our heart, will we feel qualified to bathe in that Kunda? Will we actually feel that I can put my feet into Srimati Radharani? So the spiritual principle is there. Prabhupada is encouraging us. But at the same time, we ourselves, not that anyone else is telling us, but we ourselves should feel very unqualified to bathe. We should feel that I really need to work on my spiritual life before I can come to that point where I can bathe. And that's simply the point. Just like Prabhupada has told everyone that we should, in so many lectures, he says that we should decorate the deity. We should worship the deity of the Lord. And we should do this every day. And everyone should do this. So does that mean that the day we walk into the temple, the first time we come to the temple, we just climb up on the altar and we start bathing and dressing Krishna? I mean, Srila Prabhupada told us that everyone, he says nonstop, 24 hours a day, we should decorate and dress Lord Krishna. We should decorate him in so many ways. Prabhupada said, do it 6 times a day. That's why in some temples they do it 6 times a day. The very, very high level of deity worship. But do we just do it? No, we understand that we will do it, but there's a certain qualification that we need before we do it. Meaning that I need to get first initiation, then I need to get second initiation. I need to follow the principles. I need to follow the 4 regulated principles. I need to chant my 16 rounds, and then I will be in the right consciousness to go on the altar and serve the Lord. Well, Sri Radha Kunda is far beyond any altar, because Nectar of Instruction is saying it here. It is the personification of Srimati Radharani. If you don't serve a deity, Krishna will leave the deity. But Srimati Radharani never leaves Radha Kunda. She will not leave, she will kick us out. And that's why Prabhupada says those who go to the Dhamma and they perform offenses, they are kicked out by the Lord. They cannot stay there. Krishna boots them out of his land, because Radha Kund will always stay Radha Kunda. If, like I explained to you, if we disrespect a deity, the deity may leave and we may still stay. But in the case of Radha Kunda, Radha Kund will stay. Radharani will or Krishna will make us leave because we're not ready. So we have to fulfill these instructions of Srila Prabhupada. We have to reside at Radha Kund. We have to bathe in Radha Kund. But Prabhupada also at the same time gave us a very specific, very detailed process to come to that point. And if we try to subvert it or cut that process and do our own, then it may lead to fall down. And so many devotees, actually many devotees in our movement, have tried to prematurely go to Radha Kunda, live at the banks of Radha Kunda and become a Babaji, and they've actually engaged in illicit sex. They've actually found a girl there or a guy there, and they've lost their spiritual life. Even though they went with good intentions, they were not following the process given by Srila Prabhupada. But when we are ready, Krishna will make it very clear, and Krishna will open all the paths so that we can reside there. And I actually know one great devotee, very exalted devotee in our movement, who is preparing to go, and after they've done a whole lifetime of Krishna consciousness, fully renounced, and that devotee is preparing to now reside at the banks of Radha Kunda, because they know that they're about to die. Their end is coming near, and not just that they're about to die. Even it's not. I mean, they're getting very elderly. They're old. It's near. It's in the horizon, so to say. And they've worked themselves up to that point. Their material desires are no longer there, and they're a living example. They're a living example of this verse and what Srila Prabhupada is saying. There's more to say on this point of Radha Kund, a lot more, because Prabhupada actually gets in great detail on this point in this purport. So we'll go through it. The importance to Gaudiya Vaishnavas of Radha Kunda. Srila Rupa Goswami has given much stress to Radha Kund because of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's desire to find it. Who then would give up Radha Kund and try to reside elsewhere? No person with transcendental intelligence would do so. The importance of Radha Kund, however, cannot be realized by other Vaishnava sampradayas. Nor can persons uninterested in devotional service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu understand the spiritual importance and divine nature of Radha Kund. Thus, Radha Kund is mainly worshipped by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, the followers of Lord Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Radha Kund is actually a great secret. It is only revealed to Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Imagine actually that the exaltedness of it, the greatness of it, is only known by those who are followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Other Vaishnavas do know about it, and they do visit it. If you go to Radhakund, you'll see from the Pushti Marg, other Vaishnava Sampradayas, they are there and they bathe in Radhakund, but they bathe like it's any other kund. They bathe in it because Vrindavan in general, Govardhan, is a place of Krishna's transcendental pastimes, and their Deva, their Lord, is Lord Krishna, their object of worship is Krishna. So therefore, Radhakund, Shyamakund, these are all directly related to Krishna, so very, very important to them. But the exaltedness of Radhakund and how great it is and how it is non-different than Srimati Radharani, that is only revealed to devotees who have the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And this is why the opportunity that we have in this life is so rare, because persons like Shiva, Narada, Brahma, they know very well that only Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy gives this ultimate prema bhakti, and therefore they appear in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes just to get the love of Srimati Radharani by accessing Radha Kunda. Just like we find that Lord Brahma appears as Narad Muni. After Brahma Vimohana Leela, Brahma feels so bad. He wants to understand Krishna's beauty and Krishna's real nature, who Krishna is, which he cannot understand. He has no, that's why he got confused. He looked at Krishna, he said, he's just a small boy. He could not understand that spontaneous loving affection of the residents of Vrindavan that was out of his purview. And in order to understand that, what did he do? He appeared in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes as Haridas Thakur. And he chanted the holy names of Krishna day and night. And he followed in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instructions. And therefore he was able to realize, and he becomes Namacharya. He's able to realize Krishna's most intimate pastimes. So Radha Kund is actually only available. One has to, wherever one may be in the universe, one has to take shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Gaudiya Vaishnava teachings, the Goswamis, in order to access and know the greatness of Radha Kund. Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he says that by bathing in Radha Kund, one gets the same love that Srimati Radharani has for Krishna. What an amazing sentence. By bathing in Radha Kund, one gets the same love that Radha has for Krishna. So then what does it mean to bathe in Radha Kund? This is the thing. If we, even on that special day when everyone is invited to bathe in Radha Kund, which is the appearance day of Srimati Radharani, it happens in the Vrajamandal Parikrama. So those of you who go for the Vrajamandal Parikrama, maybe next year for Kartik, everything is part of that. That's why it's so nice to do that. It's 30 days. But if you do that, you get all the experiences, all the things that the scriptures talk about. One of the days is bathing in Radha Kund, and that occasion comes during the month of Kartik on the date when the Vrajamandal Parikrama is there at Radha Kund. And so that night at midnight, when she appears, everyone goes to bathe in Radha Kund. So when we bathe in Radha Kund, why isn't it that we are rolling in ecstatic love for Krishna? Why don't we get the same love for Krishna that Radha and Rani has for Krishna? And that is because while we are bathing, we're not bathing. We are bathing, but we're not actually bathing in Radha Kund. So bathing in Radha Kund, if Narad Muni is the traveling spaceman, then he could certainly, travel to Radha Kund and bathe in it. So why does Srila Prabhupada and Rupa Goswami say that even Narad Muni is aspiring to bathe in Radha Kund? He's aspiring for the opportunity, for the good fortune of bathing in Radha Kund. It's because to bathe in Radha Kund takes immense qualification. It takes great mercy, Radharani's mercy, to have that chance. Like Srila Prabhupada says, we can be on the dham or we can be in the dham. When we are bathing in Radhakund, we are bathing on Radhakund. We are not bathing in Radhakund. When we are visiting Vrindavan, we are walking on Vrindavan. We are not walking in Vrindavan. But the pure devotee of the Lord, when they are bathing in Radhakund or Vrindavan, they're bathing in the Dham. Now, even being on the Dham is very, very purifying. Because why? It's like a pressure point. It's like you have a stove, but there's only certain circles that give you heat. So because you're on the Dham and not even in it, but because the heat of the Dham is there, it's an access point to the spiritual world. Because you're on the access point, you will still feel the heat. It will purify you. It will burn your material desires. And so it's still very purifying to be on the Dham, but it's still different than actually bathing. So after describing the better and best places, Rupa Goswami describes better and best people. And in the interest of time, I'll go a bit quicker now. In the next verse, he describes that you have the karmis. Now, the karmis don't mean actually just the materialists. The karmis, well, they are materialists, but it just doesn't mean like sinful people. The karmis are actually karmakandis, those who are engaged in fruitive activities. So this is like actually like the fruitive workers, like Shukracharya. Shukracharya, the spiritual master Bali Maharaj, he was a fruitive worker. He wanted to do yagyas to make his disciples rich. He was doing yagya, he was doing spiritual rites, but the desire was simply material benefits. But even that material enjoyment was regulated. It was regulated and it was done in service to God, according to the rules and regulations of the scriptures. And such a person is called a karmi. They are performing materialistic activities, but by the approval of God. And higher than the karmi or the karmakandi is the jnani. And the jnanis, when they're actually fixed in knowledge, they attain the Lord. Bahunam janmanamante jnanavan mam prabhadyate vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that after many, many lifetimes of cultivating jnana, Vasudeva sarvamiti, they understand that Vasudeva, Krishna is everything. So Srila Prabhupada writes that one who is actually situated in knowledge, that person will surrender to the Lord. So from karma, from simply fruitive work and trying to enjoy material life and go to the heavenly planets, one may come to the platform of knowledge, where one may realize that I don't want this materialism, I want the Supreme Lord. I want the absolute truth. That is a platform of jnana. When one is fixed on the platform of jnana, one becomes mukta, Vasudeva sarvamiti. One gains liberation. One attains liberation. One is liberated from this material world. This material world is a phantasmagoria. I want to leave this material world and reside in the spiritual realms. But beyond mukti is bhakti. So one can actually be liberated but not have devotion. Devotion is something more special. Liberated means that you give up material life, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have understood the sweetness and nature of God. So then you have the bhaktas, various bhaktas are there. Then you have the prema bhaktas. And above the prema bhaktas, the supermost prema bhaktas are the gopis of Vrindavan. And among all the gopis, the most exalted is Srimati Radharani. So this is the you could say the gradation of the different levels of bhaktas, of people. So the karmis on this planet, we find many businessmen, politicians, and others who are simply interested in material happiness. They attempt to earn money by all means, not considering whether such means are pious or impious. Such people are called karmis or gross materialists. So we call them karmis, but also even the people who are performing material activities in piety, they're also called karmis. They are also, they're still karmis, even if they're doing it in a pious way. Above the karmis, out of millions of persons, of ignorant people who are wasting their time simply gratifying their senses, one may come to the platform of knowledge and understand the higher values of life. Such a person is called a jnani. The muktis, or the liberated persons, out of many such people who are advanced in knowledge, jnanis, some may be practically liberated by virtue of their knowledge. So, it's all the sages, the great yogis, right? They become practically liberated as a result of their knowledge. They are, like Durvasa Muni. He's still not a bhakta, but he can go to Vaikuntha Loka. He's offending devotees like Ambarish Maharaj, but he can still go to Vaikuntha Loka. Due to their knowledge, their asceticism, they become liberated. And they're called the muktis, the liberated persons. However, although a jnani may be liberated from the ignorance of the karmis, unless he comes to the platform of devotional service, he is still considered to be in ignorance, avidya. So unless they come to the platform of devotional service, their standard of mukti will not last very long. They will still be in that position. And when a jnani takes to devotional service, he rapidly becomes superior to any ordinary jnani. Such an advanced person is described as jnana vimukta bhakti parama. A person is wise when he surrenders unto the lotus feet of Krishna. But such a Mahatma, great soul, is very rare. So the devotees of the Lord are also very, very learned. They're also great jnanis, like all the Goswamis. They're the most learned people. Prabhupada says devotees are the most learned philosophers. But they are jnana vimukta bhakti parama. Their jnana is in service of their devotional service. When one is fixed in devotional service, that jnana becomes a pathway to surrender to the Lord. Because through knowledge, one understands what is one's proper duty, how to serve the Lord, and one surrenders to the Lord. And then among the bhaktas, you have the prema bhaktas, the pure devotees. After taking to devotional service, under the regulated principles, a person may come to the platform of spontaneous love of Godhead, following in the footsteps of great devotees like Narada and Sanaka and Sanatana. So these are all spontaneous devotees of the Lord, prema bhaktas who have realized the highest love of God, the highest devotion. They are superior to ordinary devotees, and we must take shelter of them. So Srila Prabhupada is also a prema bhakta. There's many bhaktas in this world and in our movement, but Srila Prabhupada has a special position because he is prema bhakta, also Satyavesha avatar, and therefore he is an authority. He is a devotee of the highest caliber. The Supreme Personality of Godhead then recognizes him to be superior. The devotees who have developed love of Godhead are certainly in an exalted position. Of all these devotees, the gopis are recognized as superior because they do not know anything other than satisfying Krishna, nor do the gopis expect any return from Krishna. So the gopis are the highest of these prema bhaktas. And Prabhupada actually describes why they are the highest. Because the gopis, they take the ultimate, you could say the greatest risks in serving the Lord. Their service is not just pure unalloyed devotional service, but they threaten their entire future. They put their lives at risk. They put their lives at risk to see the Lord and to please the Lord. In Vedic culture, in the culture that the gopis perform their pastimes, if a girl left the home at the dead of night, no family, no husband would accept them back. So their leaving home at the dead of night meant the end of their family life. It meant the end of their mature life. They had no home after that. That was the culture. That was why did Mother Sita, when she came back, the whole Lord Ram is so ideal. Sita Devi are the most ideal persons, but all of their citizens would not accept Mother Sita back because she had stayed in the garden of Ravana, his Ashok Vatika. They would not accept her back because it was against all norms. She's left the home, so she's not chaste anymore. And so therefore, she is not pure anymore. And therefore, how can the king accept her back? She even walks through fire and they don't accept her back. So whether good or bad, the point is this was the culture at that time. It was just the practical reality. And their leaving home meant that they were sacrificing everything simply to satisfy Krishna. We have another story of when Krishna gets a headache and the gopis, Narad Muni asked the gopis, can you give the dust from your feet? Because that's the only thing that will cure Krishna's headache. And they immediately start to roll in the dust. And there's actually a place in Vrindavan that is commemorates this pastime. They begin to roll in the dust and so that they could produce a lot of dust so Krishna's headache could go away. And then Narad Muni asks them, they say, aren't you afraid of going to hell? Aren't you afraid that you'll go to hell if you give the dust of your feet to Lord Krishna? And they say, well, if this gives Krishna pleasure, that I should go to hell, then we are willing to go to hell 1,000 times. Because why? Because Krishna's happiness is our happiness. There's nothing else in this world that makes us happy. So they made Krishna's happiness their happiness, and that is the perfection of devotion. That is the highest devotion. The devotee is always experiencing happiness. And the desire to feel happiness is not contrary to the principle of devotion. But what is the happiness that they want to experience? Their happiness is the happiness of Krishna. So therefore, their happiness is also completely pure and exalted, selfless, because their happiness is Krishna's happiness. Now, one may say that when Krishna meets the gopis at Kurukshetra, this image is showing this pastime, that when he meets them at Kurukshetra, then at that point, the gopis are meeting Krishna after so many years. Krishna promised that he'll come back. And before he came back, they have met him now in Kurukshetra. And Krishna tells them, you can stay here. Now you've met me. And he gives them instructions at that point. But the gopis, we're saying here, they're fully selfless. And the question comes up, well, the gopis, they ask Krishna to go back to Vrindavan. They try to drag him back to Vrindavan. So one may ask that why is it that the gopis, if Krishna's pleasure was their pleasure, why weren't they happy just meeting Krishna in Kurukshetra? Why did they want to take him back to Vrindavan? And the answer is given that they knew, the gopis knew that Krishna gets the most happiness in Vrindavan. So this actually this point connects with our previous discussion, the previous verses about the glories of each place. That it's not just the devotees that give Krishna pleasure, but they know that Krishna gets the most happiness in Vrindavan. And in Govardhan Hill, at Radha Kunda, he feels the greatest pleasure. And so they know that Krishna will feel happy there the most. And so they want to pull Krishna back to Vrindavan. And this is the pastime of Rath Yatra, and Jagannath Rath Yatra. It is remembering the gopis pulling Krishna's chariot back to Vrindavan. So Rath Yatra is pulling Dwarka Krishna back to Vrindavan, and Krishna becoming so overcome and overwhelmed by their affection, his eyes become very big, and therefore he's Jagannath. His arms go in out of they go in out of ecstasy of love of God, while he's on the chariot, seeing their love. So the gopis, even when they meet Krishna in Mathura, they're not thinking of themselves. They're not thinking, well, now we're here with Krishna. Krishna's a great prince. So Krishna, we'll just go back to Dwarka. You have no shortage of palaces, and we'll just be with you there in the palace. No, Krishna, you must come back to Vrindavan, because you are happiest there. You feel the greatest pleasure there. And also we know that we can offer you the greatest service there, because the way that we are supposed to serve you, the way you like us to serve you, is in conjugal love, in this Parikiya rasa. So how is that going to be possible in Dwarka? It is not possible. And the natural setting, worshipping Krishna in a natural setting, helps in the practice of bhakti, because that is the way Krishna's made it. Is very sweet. The cows, Krishna's cows, are a big part of his pastimes, of his bhakti. I was recently in New Vrindavan. As you all know, last week was the 24-hour kirtan. This is why I canceled the class. So I was there, and one devotee there, Gaur Shakti Prabhu, who's lived there his whole life, he's a Prabhupada disciple. He mentioned that, because I said that Srila Prabhupada said that New Vrindavan is non-different than Vrindavan, Bhauma Vrindavan, Vrindavan in India. And he said, actually, Prabhupada didn't write that in his books. Maybe he said it in other devotees, different recollections. But as far as what he said in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he said that New Vrindavan is non-different than Vrindavan, is the same as Vrindavan, because the activities of Vrindavan are going on in New Vrindavan. So he didn't exactly say that New Vrindavan was, in terms of the land and the place, just because of the place was exactly the same. But he said it's the same because the same activities of Vrindavan are going on there. And when we are there, we can actually feel this, that the cows are there, the land is there, the devotees are living off of the land, the forests are there. So that mood of serving Krishna in the way that they're serving Krishna in Vrindavan in India, now it's all built up actually, that is similar in nature. The feeling in which the devotees are approaching the Lord, they're taking care of the cows, the milk, they take out the milk, and from that milk, they make butter right there in that kitchen, and they offer that butter to Krishna, Radha Vrindavan Chandra. So it's kind of interesting what he was mentioning, because there's also, my mother has told me this, one devotee, she may remember who that is, she's on the call, I don't remember, he said that when we were in Vrindavan, that if you want to serve Krishna in the mood of the gopis, then you need to know how to make cow dung patties. You need to know how to make those cow dung patties, and you need to be comfortable walking in cow dung and smearing your body with cow dung, because otherwise you go to the spiritual world and you'll be like, I need my antiseptic wipes, and I need my computer laptop. No, we need to know how to churn butter, because the way that bhakti is being manifest, also the nature of that bhakti, is very, very much like Krishna's pastimes. It is very simple. It is Krishna's a cowherd boy, and that mood of devotion has to be cultivated, and it's a different type of mood of devotion. So again, at this point, we don't imitate. It's not that we're going to now move to Vrindavan and make cow dung patties. But the point is that Prabhupada established these places, farm communities, and these places of pilgrimage, because he wanted to cultivate that mood and way of bhakti, following in the footsteps of the residents of Vrindavan. And if we do our bhakti in that way, then that place becomes non-different than Vrindavan, because the same Vrindavan activities are going on. And the gopis of Vrindavan, they want to serve Krishna in that way. They know that Krishna gets the most pleasure in being served in that way. Therefore, they're trying to bring Krishna back to Vrindavan. One last example, that after Indra offended Krishna, and after he lifted Govardhan hill, then Indra comes to Krishna to ask for forgiveness. And when he comes, all the demigods come with him, and they start to glorify Krishna and offer, arati, and they're worshiping the Lord in devotion. And Krishna's sitting there on this throne that they made for him, and he's not smiling, he's just accepting it. And so they do their worship and they leave. But then they still, from the heavens, they're still watching What is Krishna doing next? And then after they leave, all the cowherd boys come out, and they come out laughing and giggling and say, "Ah, Krishna, what a great throne this is. This will be so much fun. We'll come here every day." And then they climb on the throne and start climbing on the shoulders of Krishna. And Krishna starts to laugh and enjoy, and he has a bright smile, until I was like serious like a rock, like a king. And now he starts to smile, and then the cowherd boys, they take the paraphernalia that all the demigods have left, the artik paraphernalia, and imitating the demigods, they start offering Krishna this artik and fanning him. And they made him the king, and they start fanning him and offering the artik. And Krishna is so happy, he's pleased, he's brightly smiling. And then at that point, the demigods understand that this is actually the worship that pleases Krishna the most. The spontaneous love for Krishna pleases him the most, and therefore we have a long way to go. We have to work ourselves up to that point where we can spontaneously love Krishna in the mood of the residents of Vrindavan. So they are superior for this reason. Indeed, sometimes Krishna puts them in extreme suffering by separating them from them, by separating himself from them. Nonetheless, they cannot forget Krishna. For 100 years, Krishna remained separate from them, more than 100 years. But they could never forget Krishna. And they would say that our only problem is that we cannot forget him. If only we could forget him, we could get some peace for a few moments. But our problem is that we can never forget him. If the Lord would be kind, he would just allow us to forget him for a minute, but we can never forget him. And out of all the exalted gopis, Srimati Radharani is the highest. No one can excel the devotional service of Srimati Radharani. So we are all actually followers of Srimati Radharani. This is why in Vrindavan Dham, every stone, every tree is marked with the word Jai Shri Radhe. She is Madana Mohana Mohani. She even conquers Krishna. Krishna attracts the whole world, but she is Sri Krishna Karshani. She attracts Krishna. And all the devotees of the Lord are actually just the rays emanating from Srimati Radharani. They are all, only Srimati Radharani is serving Krishna. And all the devotees that serve Krishna are just assisting Srimati Radharani in her service to Krishna. Even Mother Yashoda is assisting Srimati Radharani in her service to Krishna. Even she accepts that Srimati Radharani is a more exalted devotee than she is. Because when Krishna became sick, one time he became sick, he gets a cold, he gets all these things, he's in his transcendental pastimes. The only person who could feed Krishna, who could give Krishna would accept food, is from Srimati Radharani. There's so many pastimes like this, where Mother Yashoda, no one can please or satisfy Krishna at that time. He will only accept the cooking of Srimati Radharani. So she knows she is more exalted than I am. Because there's never a time when Srimati Radharani is not able to serve Krishna or satisfy him to the fullest degree. Srimati Radharani is never, ever not able to please Krishna. But all the residents of Vrindavan, they have a moment when it's beyond them. Krishna will not accept their service, but Srimati Radharani must come, and he'll only accept that service. Just by thinking of Srimati Radharani, Krishna becomes ecstatic. He feels separation from her. He becomes morose without her association. So how exalted is this Srimati Radharani? Indeed, even Krishna cannot understand the attitude of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, he took her position and he appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just to understand her transcendental feelings. So to relish Srimati Radharani's feelings and understand her mood, Krishna takes her position and appears in this world. And this exalted Srimati Radharani takes the form of Sri Radha Kunda. Just as Srimati Radharani is dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, Vishnu. So her bathing place, Radha Kund, is equally dear to Krishna. Right? So how wonderful it is that this Kunda is so glorious that if Srimati Radharani is so dear to the Lord, no one can serve Krishna as nicely as she can. And this Kunda is non-different than her. Then how important this place is and how dear it is to Krishna. Therefore, we have to be so careful because Krishna will not tolerate an offense to Srimati Radharani. So this ghat is so dear, this Kunda is so dear to the Lord. We have to be very, very careful. Why is Radhakund so exalted? The lake is so exalted because it belongs to Srimati Radharani, who is the most beloved object of Sri Krishna. Among all the gopis, she is the most beloved. So if something belongs to someone who we greatly love, then that thing becomes very dear. So because it is Radharani's Kunda, therefore it becomes the most beloved object. It's the place of the most intimate pastimes of Radha and Krishna. So because it's Radharani's Krishna's most beloved place, it becomes the place of their most intimate pastimes. Similarly, her lake, Sri Radha Kund, is also described by great sages as the lake that is as dear to Krishna as Radha herself. Indeed, Krishna's love for Radha Kund and Srimati Radharani is the same in all respects. So the results of bathing in Radha Kunda, it is recommended that one should live on the banks of Radha Kund and should be absorbed in the loving service of the Lord. One should bathe there regularly and give up all material conceptions, taking shelter of Sri Radha and her assistant gopis. Yes. If one is thus constantly engaged during this lifetime, after giving up the body, he will return back to Godhead to serve Sri Radha in the same way as he is contemplated during his life on the banks of Radha Kunda. So Prabhupada, this is directly from Prabhupada's purport. He says one will return to the spiritual in the same way as he is contemplated during his life on the banks of Radha Kunda. The conclusion is that to live on the banks of Radha Kunda and to bathe there daily constitute the highest perfection of devotional service. So on this point is actually very relevant to this month of Kartik. And it's relevant in general to our whole discussion today. That going back to Godhead, just because we're going back to Godhead, doesn't mean that we're going back to Golok Vrindavan. Going back to Godhead means many things. And if we want to go back home, back to Godhead, and we mean that we want to go to Radha Kunda or we want to go to Krishna's pastimes, places, then we need to cultivate the mood of that practice of bhakti. We need to cultivate the mood of the residents of Vrindavan by performing very intentional, very non-mechanical devotional service. So if we think that I can chant my 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulated principles and go back to Godhead, that is true. But where back to Godhead are we going to? Where in the back to Godhead are we desiring to go to? And that is this sentence here that Prabhupada is saying. However we contemplate in this life the service of the Lord, in that way we will reach the Lord. And before we go to Vaikuntha, end up somewhere there, we have to do this. It's very important. Therefore, it's a very big opportunity and one not to be missed in this human form of life. We need to cultivate a specific mood by becoming qualified in coming to that point, because otherwise, if we don't contemplate it, we may not reach it. We will not return to that place. And when we read the Damodarastika prayers, this is actually verse 6, I believe, of the Damodarastika, where Satyavat, I got less sleep last night, so I'm forgetting the names here. The Muni who wrote this Namandarastika, what's the name? Yeah, Satyavrata Muni. He says that I don't want any other benediction. Oh Lord Damodar, I only want to see you in this form as Damodar, tied up by your mother's ropes. This I want to be my constant object of vision. So there, Sanatana Goswami, in his commentary on that verse, he explains that Satyavata Muni is rejecting Vaikuntha. So all these places that we're describing, right, the different levels of places, he's rejecting Vaikuntha. He's saying, my Lord, I do not want to go back to Vaikuntha. I don't want to go to Mathura, because in Mathura Krishna appears, but he's not performing his pastimes. He is saying that I want to serve you, I want to be involved in your Damodar pastime, which is eternal. I want to see you in this form as Damodar, tied up by your mother's affection. That is my prayer. That is the object of my worship, Damodar Krishna. So in the same way, we have to, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he gives a very nice lecture on this. You can hear it. It's on ISKCON Desire Tree. A little hard to find. You go to his lectures, and then there's a series, and then there's Karthik lectures, and then his lectures on the Damodarastika. He mentions that this is relevant to ISKCON devotees as well. He says that Srila Prabhupada gave us a very specific process. Every morning in Tulsi Artik, we sing Morahe Abhilash Bilash Kunje Diovas, where the devotee by Srila Prabhupada is being trained to pray to the Lord that I want to go to Vrindavan Dham. I want to Kunja Vilas, in the Kunjas, I want to witness your pastimes. Although we are still struggling with controlling our senses, still struggling to give up chocolate and coffee and basic things like this, Srila Prabhupada is asking us to sing this song. Why? Because he wants us to gradually cultivate, contemplate Krishna's pastimes so that we can reach that same abode. And here in the Nectar of Instruction, in the final verse, he's encouraging us to do that. He's encouraging in the final verse that reside in the banks of Radha Kund, contemplate Krishna's pastimes, purify your mind and absorb your mind in Krishna's pastimes. But notice that he's giving it in the last verse. He's not telling us to do this in the first verse. So we lifetime of service, right? We have a lifetime of service, lifetime of sadhana, and then samadhi. Right? We have to work ourselves up to this point. We have to keep the goal in mind. The Nectar of Instruction in these final few verses is telling us the goal, that don't go to Vaikuntha, don't go to Mathura, go to Vrindavan, go to Radha Kund. And that will be revealed to us in due course of time. Attaining one Siddha Deha, living entities who are eager to return home to the transcendental kingdom of God, Golok Vrindavan, by means of attaining their spiritual bodies, Siddha Deha, should live at Radha Kunda, take shelter of the confidential serving maids of Sri Radha, and under their direction, engaged constantly in her service. So this passage, which is again directly from the purport, you can read it in your own time. This passage also gives proof. It is proof that this instruction to live on the banks of Radha Kunda is not for ordinary devotees, but devotees who have realized their Swarupa. Why is this? Because it's being said, take shelter of the confidential serving maids of Sri Radha, and under their direction, engage constantly in their service. Well, the last time that I went to Radha Kunda, I did not see any manjaris there. They did not give me any direction on how to serve Krishna. So obviously, like that point of living on the Dham or living in the Dham, obviously, I am not on the banks of Radha Kunda. I am on the banks of Radha Kunda, but not in there. I'm not there. I'm near there somewhere. I'm trying to get some mercy by feeling the heat of that Dham that's purifying my stone heart. But there's no gopis there. There's no sakhis there. So Prabhupada is speaking to the Uttamadhikari devotee who's reading this book. Living entities who are eager to return home to the transcendental kingdom of God, Golok Vrindavan, by means of attaining their spiritual bodies, should live at Radhakund and take shelter of the confidential serving maids. It's very clear. We can stay there if we take shelter of them. But if we don't even have access to them, then we need to follow Prabhupada's process and follow it very intensely, not procrastinating, but so that we reach this goal. Follow it, at the same time, be fully determined to follow this as well, one day, when we are ready. So, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai. So I've spoken a lot today. Now we can have some discussion. Actually, we've ended in good time, so thank you very much. Okay. So Sham Kishori Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Sorry, I'm not able to come on camera.
That's okay.
Wonderful class, Prabhuji. I was missing this. Last week we missed this. So Prabhuji, you mentioned about bathing at Radha Kund and being in that humble mood where we feel we are not qualified. So, and I may not be qualified for many lifetimes, I don't know. So when I visit Vrindavan next, because last time when I went, I didn't realize how important Radha Kund is. And I may have committed offenses. I hope I get forgiven. But I just put some water on my head. So next time, is it okay to try to humbly take a bath? Because I read that, you mentioned in the slides that even if once you take a bath, it's very spiritually uplifting. So is it okay to, knowing that we are not qualified, still take a bath at Radhakund?
It depends on which devotee you speak to. In our movement, there's different opinions on this matter, and different devotees had different experiences in terms of what Srila Prabhupada said. But one thing that I know, it's a scriptural fact, is that when you come to a kunda and you put your hand inside and you put it 3 times on your head, then that is equivalent to bathing. So for my own self, and you have to make your own decision, you have to speak to your own spiritual master and see what they say. But for my own self, I think, well, if doing this is equivalent to bathing, which is a scriptural fact, there's no difference of opinion there. Everyone agrees that that's the same thing. Then I feel that on my level, I feel comfortable bathing like that. That the instruction is there to bathe. At the same time, I don't want to put my feet into Radharani's form of Radha Kund. So we go to the edge, we offer our obeisances, full dandavat, and then we put our hands in, and 3 times we do this. So that is what I have done personally, except the exception for that is that one day when Radharani appears, and that is the day of special mercy. It's said in the scriptures that Srila Prabhupada also said, everyone said that on that day, everyone can bathe. It's like the free day. It's the day of mercy. So that day, if I'm there in Vrindavan, if I have the good fortune of being there, everyone can go and bathe, and millions of people do bathe. I'm sure some devotees, even on that day, they don't feel qualified to bathe. But that's pretty much accepted by all devotees, that it's okay to bathe on that day. I do remember bathing once, aside from this, but that was, I went in the kunda with a devotee who's very advanced and who's also Vrajvasi. Like they are extremely advanced devotees, and they were bathing, and they told me you should also bathe, so I bathed with them. That was the one time I bathed in Radhakund. That was not on that day or not like this. I actually bathed and even very respectfully kind of swam a little bit, like little deep. And that was because that devotee was there. So if a very advanced devotee is with us, Radharani may be merciful, kind of like when Indra goes to Krishna, he goes with a cow, with a Surabhi cow, and he puts Surabhi ahead of him because Krishna will forgive the offenses. In that way, if we go with, it's nice to go to the dham with a very advanced devotee. This way we will stay in the right consciousness. And then they will guide us on what to do and what not to do.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji.
Dandavat Pranam. Hare Krishna. Brandy Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. I have just a little bit of a confirmation, or maybe you can expand on it a bit more. But when speaking about jnana yogis, can you clarify or differentiate between learned knowledge and realized knowledge, and where this stands in regards to the scale that we were looking at? Because I myself, I can read the Bhagavad Gita, maybe I memorize a verse and every point that Prabhupada is saying inappropriate, but I don't actually deeply understand it in my heart. And I wonder where that stands in relation to realizing what we're learning, and or is just in taking this information at all, is that just as potent, if that makes sense? I hope you
Yes,
get what I'm trying to ask.
Yes. I mean, this was actually the life of Buddha, where people talk about this, that, growing up, he knew that death was there. He saw his mother die. His mother died, or he knew that his mother died. He knew about disease. He knew about old age. But then at a certain point in his life, when he's a young man, he travels through the city, and he sees what are known as the four passing sights. And one of them is an old person, another is a sick person, a third is a dead person, dead body, and the fourth is a monk. And when he sees on that journey, when he sees the dead body and the sick person, then all of a sudden he realizes that this is going to happen to me also. And I'm actually going to die one day, and I'm going to get sick. So before he knew it, like you were saying, the knowledge was there of the temporality of the body, but he had not realized it. But at that point, he actually realizes it. So that realization is actually the mercy of Krishna. So when we chant, when we serve Krishna, that at a certain point, what we read, we will realize it. Krishna will arrange a situation so we realize it. And then secondly, this is why bhakti is more important than jnana. This is why the chanting of the holy names is so important, because through devotion and chanting, we actually realize this knowledge. And that's the second verse of the Shikshashika, Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. The holy name is Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. It actually gives birth to knowledge. It is the source of all transcendental knowledge. Now, someone may ask that, well, if I'm chanting, I'm not reading, where is the knowledge? But through chanting within the heart, Krishna reveals this knowledge, and that knowledge is actual knowledge, that is realized knowledge. And when we read books, that is information, but that may not be realized. So on account of their knowledge, right, they say the sages, they attain the Lord. Well, that knowledge is realized knowledge. They understand it, they read it, and they realize it. And that realized knowledge comes through the process of studying. So in order to realize it, one has to actually devote themselves to studying it. And then it also then manifests in that way. So yes. So it's a combination of knowledge and devotion that leads to the realization of knowledge.
Thank you. That really helps. Because I was also thinking, there's many great devotees who are realized in so many different aspects of Krishna consciousness before, learning. And it's like you said, chanting reveals. Sometimes Krishna teaches us something before we've even learned it by instruction or in the books or something, due to mercy. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Yes. Pushpanjali Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, a small question about Radha Kund. You said devotees, they should not take like the Shila from Govardhan. I mean, that is something that, we don't just take it and bring it home. What about the jal from Radha Kunda? Is that okay to bring a little bit in a bottle and like once in a while take a few drops like that? Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely. There's no as much water as we would like to take, we can take. In fact, once a year, yeah, I think once a year, Radha Kund is emptied out. They empty out the entire kunda, they clean it, and then they fill it up again. So,
Yeah.
so the water is unlimited. The shilas, I mean, in one sense, they're unlimited also, but there's still only so many shilas, and also we need the qualification. They're actually like a deity of the Lord. They're not different than Krishna. So it's said that we need permission from the spiritual master and permission from a Brajavasi. We need two permissions before we can take Govardhan Shila. Yes.
Okay, Prabhuji. One more question. I'm not totally able to understand how Radha Kunda is non-different from Radha Rani, because Radha Rani, I mean, I can see that Radha Kund is Radha Rani's mercy herself, but at the same time, Radha Rani's personality seems to have so many more aspects. Like, I mean, my brain is not able to comprehend, maybe because I'm trying to understand with my brain, not with my heart. So if you could just expand a little bit more, how to understand. Like, I can see little ways that Radha Kund is Radha Rani herself, in the sense it's the prema, it's the love. But her personality has so many different levels of prema, so many different, newness and things. So, I mean, how to understand this concept?
Yes, very nice question. So the point is actually that, yeah, the point here, excuse me, sorry, is that Srimati Radharani takes the form of Radha Kunda. And in our material sort of limited concept of the body, in order to eat, you need a mouth. In order to see, you need eyes. But these are not limitations of a spiritual form. So you simply just have to think that this is an expansion of Srimati Radharani. So just like the deity, right, Radha, Shama Sundar in Vrindavan, many devotees have said that they're non-different than Radha, Shama Sundar. So the deity is still, it's in one place. Radharani is not moving there. She's standing there like this 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Yet she, in that deity form, is not different than Srimati Radharani. Actually, it's just this little anecdote. One time, Bhurijan Prabhu was asked by a devotee, and he resides in Vrindavan. So Radha Sham Sundar are his favorite, he serves them. And so he's asked by a devotee, where are the most beautiful deities in the world? Somewhat, it was a foolish question, they thought. But anyway, they asked him, Prabhu, what do you think who do you think are the most beautiful deities? So he says, maybe Radha Landanishwara, maybe Radha Rukmini Dwarkadesh. And the devotees say, but Prabhu, what about Radha Shama Sundar? I thought you're most attached to them. And he says, oh, they're not deities. They're Radha and Krishna themselves. You asked me about deities. Where are the most beautiful deities? They're not different than Radha and Krishna. So if that's true, if they're not different than Radha and Krishna, then she's standing in one place, yet she's fully Srimati Radharani. So the spiritual form is not limited in any way. So this is her spiritual form. Radha Kunda is her spiritual form. Now that could be different than what we are seeing when we go there. You see, we're not seeing the full Radha Kund, and therefore we're not seeing Radharani fully. We are seeing the surface, just the surface on Radha Kund. And that's why we can't really understand why this Kunda is like the spiritual form of Srimati Radharani.
Thank you so much. One small confirmation. You said on Radharani's appearance day or Radha Kund appearance day, devotees take part. Which day is it?
It's a Radha Kund appearance day.
Radha Kund.
Yeah.
Thank you
and
so
it's
much.
on our Vaishnav calendar. So if you look on the calendar,
it happened last week only. It came, right? Last week there was Radha Kund appearance day and Bholashtami or something. That day?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I forgot to check the calendar. So I forgot to check for which day it is. I'm not in Vrindavan. So
it was yesterday, Prabhuji.
It was yesterday? Wow.
I think it was 2 days ago.
2 days ago. Okay.
Yeah, for you.
Bahulashtami.
Bahulashtami was the day before.
Yes. So if we were in Vrindavan, we would be bathing there. But what to do? I am very unfortunate. I'm here in Chicago. So
There are some pictures, Prabhuji, on Facebook. If you search for Bahulashtami
Okay.
of this year's Radha Kund devotees taking bath, and very nice pictures.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. Really. And here we have Gopal Govinda Prabhu visiting us from Vrindavan, joining us from Vrindavan. Please send your blessings to us. And he visited Radha Kund. Prabhu, you're so fortunate. And here we are glorifying Vrindavan Dham.
Thank you, Prabhu. It just so happened that I was there today. And wonderful. I just could not dare to take the bath. Same words that what you just explained. I was just sitting there. I chanted and just prayed to the Parampara.
Wow. You are so fortunate, Prabhu. How can we? I'm hoping that my next break we can visit Vrindavan. It's been such a long time for all of us. I mean, now persons like yourself are able to go to India. They're opening the doors on November 15th. I don't have an OCI card, so after November 15th, devotees can start going back and having darshan. But it's very much. I mean, isn't it so amazing sitting next to Radha Kund, that atmosphere, that ambience, even to this day, in spite of the fact Kali Yuga has increased so much and there's so much development, all this stuff that's going on there. Like when you stand there, when you sit there, it's so nourishing, so inspiring. Yes.
Absolutely, Prabhu. I was seeing those little kids. Some of those kids were like taking a bath, and I was just thinking that these kids must be really, yeah, they must be different people, really. So
they are the Brajavasis. They can bathe anytime, and they're so fortunate. They're like Krishna's family members.
Yeah, it's very nice. And on other ground also, I think government has done very nice job. It's very clean, very very inviting atmosphere now.
Wow. Yes.
Prabhuji, please share some pictures if you can.
Yes, maybe Param. Oh, yes.
I did not take any picture. I'm sorry about it. Yeah.
Yes. No, Param Karuna Prabhu, he can share. I think he has those pictures he was mentioning. Yes. Champakalata Sakhi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for such an ecstatic class today. It was like diving deep down in the Radha Kunj. Thank you so much. Prabhu, I have two questions with the same concept. Like you said, we cannot perform bhakti mechanically, right? And at the same time, we have to perform everything with love. And second part was you told us the difference between Devaki and Yashoda Mai. So how should be our mood that how would you connect both, Prabhu? Like when we go in front of the deities, there is so many, at least me personally, I do things very mechanical. Okay, this done, and done. So when we see our deities, how should be our mood in front of them? And because like you said, it cannot be done mechanically, and we have to come to that level of love where we can be above austerities.
Yes.
And like you discussed, no, that both did austerities, the Devaki and Yashoda, but there was a difference. And it's the same time when we go out preaching, is that time we forget, yes, we are in that mood. We are just doing that. Okay, we are out, we are distributing books. If you can connect both, help me understand.
Yes. No, actually, this is very a very common, a very central topic, that initially our bhakti starts by being mechanical. So initially our chanting, our devotional service, everything is mechanical in nature. And then once we are practiced, we are striving to make it intentional. We're not mechanically, but intentionally. Tamal Krishna Maharaj in that class, he was saying that there's no practice of bhakti that can be done mechanically and lead to pure love of God. Every aspect of our devotion, from rising early in the morning to serving the deity, Everything has to be done in a mood of love and service. At the same time, it starts with the mechanical, right? And it's actually true. I've seen it in my own life. Like certain things before were just so mechanical for me, but now they're somewhat natural for me. And because they're natural for me, because I'm used to doing them, I can get more into the mood of doing them. There's a more feeling, there's some mood there that by which we do it. So we have to like, you know, chanting is a big thing, that we have to chant, and whether mechanically or intentionally, we have to chant. We have to complete our rounds. But then gradually, we will start chanting and doing it in the same way that we will think, how can I chant in the same way that Haridas Thakur was trying to chant? Or the same way that a person who's about to die is going to chant. So I can do it with more feeling. In the same way, when we're making the offering to Krishna, initially it's like, okay, here's a plate, do it. And then you make Krishna's plate, you put it in front of Krishna and say, here you go, Krishna, eat it. I need it in 5 minutes. And that's very nice, you know, that's at least we're offering everything to Krishna. And we all do that. And then as we keep advancing, we say, okay, let me offer this, but let me offer this food to Krishna in the way that Mother Yashoda would offer it to Krishna. Right? So the same thing is there, same activity is there, but we start thinking, okay, this is the month of Damodar, month of Kartik. Let me meditate on Mother Yashoda's, how would she offer Krishna this food? What would she do? So that feeling comes gradually. And in order to go back to Godhead, we need to develop that feeling. It's all about feeling. Spiritual life is all about feeling. So Prabhupada says that we when we are doing it in that way, then Krishna becomes very pleased.
Okay, Prabhu. Prabhu, so where does austerity comes in the picture, Prabhu? If you can tell me a little bit. Like even Kartik month, there are so many devotees, they do so many austerities, Prabhu.
Yes.
Like they give up one meal, they eat one meal, they eat only Havish, they do different austerities.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's a fact that in the month of Kartik, it's very good to do austerities, but it's good to do it all year round. Prabhupada, in one quote, he says that Kartik is for the non-devotees. He actually says this. It's actually, the devotees are always serving the Lord. They're always doing austerities for the Lord. But those of us who are not fully devoted, Kartik is a way to inspire us that, okay, at least this month, I'll do austerities for Krishna. Prabhupada said this in a letter to Jayapataka Maharaj, that for neophyte devotees or non-devotees, Kartik is there to try to make them be devotees. And you know, the hope is that for this month, they'll start doing it. And once they start it, they won't stop and they'll continue on. But the devotee performs unlimited austerities for Krishna. The Mother Yashoda, when she is unable to tie up Krishna, the rope is 2 fingers too short. The 2 fingers represent, one finger is effort and the other is mercy. So Krishna's mercy is there, but austerity means our effort. We have to put in the effort. And until both things are not there, we will not be able to tie up Krishna. Such a nice teaching. To tie up Krishna in our hearts, we need our austerity and we need Krishna's mercy, both things, and then Krishna becomes tied. In the same way, we see that when Mother Yashoda was churning butter or was running after Krishna, when she was churning butter, this was before even she was running, just in her day-to-day activities, the Bhagavatam specifically describes that she was sweating. She was sweating. She was working very hard for Krishna. And the devotees explain that this shows that hard work is necessary to please the Lord. So therefore, devotees work very hard, following in the footsteps. But then the mood is what? Am I just working hard because I have to do this? But am I working hard because I want to serve Krishna in the way that Mother Yashoda is working hard? So austerity must always be there. But the austerity can be done mechanically, or it can be done out of love, out of devotion.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
So now I'll go to people who haven't had the chance to ask a question until now. So Madhava Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the very nice class. So Prabhuji, in the middle of the class, we were talking about how spiritual world is infinite and there's even more variety, more levels in infinite. So I had heard somewhere that also suppose a jiva gets liberated, gets a constitutional position in Braja, supposedly Madhuri Bhav. Then also alongside that, parallel with that, there's also Nitya Navadvip, I've heard, and that the Jivas also doing pastimes with Mahaprabhu. So is it possible to shed some light there? How can we basically like understand a good amount, a chunk of that?
Yes, yes. First of all, I should say that normally the path of Govardhan is behind you, but today it seems like you're in Vrindavan, in the forest of Vrindavan.
Yeah, I could not find, I don't know, I could not find that picture, so I just put a grass. They're not a piece of anything.
I see. Or the grass that Uddhava prays to become, right? He says, I want to be a clump of grass at the feet, the grass that will be trampled by the gopis of Vrindavan. That's what I want to become. So that's what it reminded me of. Yes, actually, in these lectures by Tamal Krishna Maharaj says, and again, there's difference of opinions amongst devotees, but he says that our Swarupa is eternal. The way we want to serve the Lord, no one can take that away from us. The soul is completely happy in that way, and that's the way they want to serve the Lord. And this is shown by the pastime of Murari Gupta, who's Hanuman. Although he appears in Chaitanya Leela, and although because being in contact with Lord Chaitanya, he has the spontaneous sentiments of prema bhakti, but he cannot give up. He cannot give up his service to Lord Ramachandra. He cannot give up the mood of service that he has for Lord Ramachandra. So Maharaj says that when our Swarupa is revealed to us, we won't want to give it up, even if we are offered something so-called higher, like the position of the gopis, because it's not who we are. At the same time, and this I've heard from other devotees, that the residents of Dwarka are sometimes relishing the mood of the gopis by remembering them, talking about them, and that's why Lord Jagannath becomes Jagannath in Dwarka. So they can get the sentiments, but not exactly a difference in form. So now, in addition to that, and this is towards answering your question, to complexify it more, just like Krishna can expand himself in many different forms, a pure devotee of the Lord, due to their intense desire to serve the Lord, they can also expand themselves and serve Krishna in multiple ways. And we see this in the case of Hanuman, who's always Hanuman in some planet or the other, and also in the spiritual world, he's serving Lord Ramachandra in that way. And he's expanded himself as Murari Gupta in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So the same devotee simultaneously serving Krishna in two different places. Another example is Arjuna, Ramananda Rai, and Lalita Sakhi. If you read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it said that they're actually the same person, or actually there's parts of them in those three. So it's like, I don't remember exactly the details, but it's like Ramananda Rai is a combination of Arjuna and Lalita Sakhi. And so they're like the same person, but also different persons coming together. So the pure devotees of the Lord, they have a lot of flexibility. Let's put it this way. I mean, they're liberated souls. Krishna's whole heart and soul is trying to please them. So if they want to serve Krishna in a certain way, if they get the desire to serve Krishna in a certain way, they will serve him in that way, and they can expand themselves. So yes, in the spiritual world, there's three main divisions. There's three parts. One is Golok Vrindavan, the other is Saket, Lord Ramachandra's abode, and the third is Navadvip. And devotees of the Lord, depending on their mood and their desire to serve the Lord, they can go in any of these three, or they can simultaneously be in all three. There's nothing stopping them from being in all three. Who knows, maybe Lord Hanuman is Lord Ramachandra's servant, and then he's also monkey in Vrindavan Dham, stealing butter with Krishna, and he's also Murari Gupta in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. So these things will become, our own Swarupa will become revealed over time. But there's one quote from Bhaktivinoda Thakur that everyone has a Swarupa in Vrindavan Dham, in Golok Vrindavan. So there's one quote from Bhaktivinoda Thakur that suggests that eventually, when we keep advancing and we learn more and more about spiritual life, we will find our Swarupa in Vrindavan Dham. Because every soul is ultimately related with Krishna, specifically with Krishna. They have some relationship with Krishna. And we have to remember that even the residents of the spiritual world are making spiritual advancement. So we make spiritual advancement to go to the spiritual world. And we think, okay, then you're a pure devotee. True, but once you're in the spiritual world, even there, they're making more and more advancement. So Mother Yashoda is learning from Srimati Radharani. She's becoming more advanced by seeing Srimati Radharani. The other gopis are becoming more advanced by learning from Mother Yashoda. But they're advancing on their high levels. Their love is deepening, is becoming deeper and deeper towards Krishna by following in the footsteps of devotees who are even greater than they are. So my feeling is that once a devotee has reached the spiritual world, they may learn about Krishna's pastimes, and eventually they may want to join them in a certain way, but still keeping that same rasa. That doesn't change, it seems. That mood, Mother Yashoda will never become Srimati Radharani. It will be horrible for her that she cannot even think in that way. Well, I shouldn't say horrible, it's a spiritual thing, but she cannot think of giving up her motherly affection. But she's aware of these Madhurya rasas. She is in touch with them. She is tasting them by hearing about them or knowing about them.
Thank you, Pro. Yeah, it's a question I had because I saw this picture. I don't know if you can see it.
I can't. No.
Let me turn off my.
Yes.
Like this picture of Ayendra Prabhu. I don't know if you've seen this before. So he has two versions of these. I don't know. So have you seen this before?
No, I haven't. Seen this.
So it's of Ayendra Prabhu when he's doing his revelation. So he's one of him in Raja and one of him in Navadvip. So then I also heard the same thing in one lecture. So I thought I would just ask that question. How is it possible he's in two places?
Very interesting. Wow. I actually have never read that book. And
it's just I didn't read the book. I just saw pictures. So
it's the other pictures, okay. Yeah, no, it's some confidential book that is actually a little controversial. People are like, is it there? Is it actually bona fide? It's very difficult to understand, but clearly he was there. What exactly he's written, I'm not sure I can understand, but yeah, but yes, no, that's very common. You see throughout Chaitanya Leela, all the associates of Lord Chaitanya have a role in Krishna Leela. So Krishna Leela and Navadvip Leela are like hand in hand. Yes.
Thank you, Pro. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So unless someone has a burning question, we can end now. Would someone like to ask another question? I see more hands up, but I'm not sure if they are from before or someone has a burning question.
Prabhuji, I just had a quick question you mentioned, and it's more about the logistics. You said that both the exams will be together.
Yes.
So do you have an idea on the timing so we can also plan our schedules? How long will Ishopanishad take? And tentatively, what's the exam date?
I honestly don't. I'm really sorry. It's the first time I'm teaching Bhakti Shastri, so I'm kind of learning as I go, and sometimes we have to take a break for some reason. It's very rare now. I always try to do every single week, but it has 18 verses. It has 18 verses, and I think we'll probably do like 2 or 3 each week. So maybe, I will try to do it in a month or month and a half. So let's say it's October, November, maybe in December we'll have the exam. And I know many of you may be traveling at that time. So I'll be flexible in terms of when you can take the exam. It really doesn't matter exactly when. And for most of you, it'll be the last book anyway. So it's not like we're starting on the next book and I will continue on, but all of you, it's not like you're starting on the next book. And so you have to do the other books as well. So we will work it out for sure, just like we do each time. And it will happen very soon. Let me just see if I have some guidance here in terms of the timing.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And next Saturday we are having class, right? It's Diwali and Govardhan Puja, but still the class is on.
So is it actually on Saturday, Diwali and
No, it's
Govardhan?
actually on 4th and 5th, so which is Thursday and Friday.
Okay.
But I just wanted to confirm because it's that Diwali weekend.
4th and 5th. Yeah, I'm not going anywhere, so I can have, and it'll be after Diwali, so probably people will be not so stressed, and we do it in the morning. So yeah, we'll have class.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. It's so nice to have your association each week. It really is my good fortune. Thank you for your kind attention.
Shat Pranam.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Prabhu,
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Vanchakalpatarubhyasya